Yeah, dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure for us to be able to meet here at this time. Last year, actually beginning of this year, there was a study that was initiated by the G20. And they were looking at the resources that would finance the SDGs, but also the climate. And they estimated that 3 trillion would be needed up to 2030 that would finance the entire climate. And out of that, that would finance the climate and SDGs. But out of that, we needed 1.8 trillion. Now, this money is divided into so many different areas. It's an adaptation, mitigation, resilient, but now loss and damage, which is most critical. In as much as we mitigate, but there are already the damage that is happening right now. And that's why we needed this fund. And here we are very, very happy that at least last year in the COP27, they established the fund, the Loss and Damage Fund, which concluded really the entire discussion that is close to almost 3 decades. The COP28 has started positively with the adoption of the recommendation of the Transitional Committee on Loss and Damage. The fund, with now funding pledges amounting to 656 million as of yesterday, is really very encouraging. It marks the beginning of a very important era on our efforts to address climate change and its impacts. We are aware that there is so much work to be done to make the fund operational, but we are optimistic that before the end of this COP28, we'll have agreed upon the necessary arrangements to make the fund operational and receive more pledges to make it financially viable. Moreover, we are confident that these pledges will be promptly translated into actual payments to the fund and make it usable by the member countries. Many projections show that the economic cost of climate change in developing countries will reach between 290 billion and 580 billion annually by the year 2030. And this, of course, calls for a lot of resources to be invested, especially for the Loss and Damage Fund. Thus, there is a need for rapidly scaling up of the Loss and Damage Fund, including diversification of funding sources and domestic resource mobilization. Not all the money will come from outside, but also it has to come from our own resources. I understand the importance of accurate information in decision-making regarding the fund allocation. Our institution, the ECA, currently working on upgrading the model-based methodology that was initially developed in 2013, as mentioned by the Master of Ceremony. Additionally, we are contributing to further advancements in attribution science to enhance the accuracy of loss and damage assessments. These efforts are crucial for the successful operationalization of the fund. My institution remains committed to supporting African member states to build capacity so they can fully benefit from the operationalization of the fund. We stand committed to supporting the African group of negotiators in their work on loss and damage. We'll work with member states to build their capacity and improve their access to the fund, including supporting initiatives for resilience building, rehabilitation, and reconstruction of the infrastructure of the ecosystem. This will help us in terms of preventing, but at the same time, supporting the countries, especially those island states, to make sure that they can deal with the issues of climate change. I just didn't want to take much of the time. I wanted just to stop here and indicate the importance of the Loss and Damage Fund, which we are going to work together to make sure that countries access it. Having a fund in itself is very good, but if you cannot access the resources, it won't give you much. And that's why we need to quickly, now that we have a methodology, now that we have a formula, to make sure that we can give the capacity to the countries that can start now accessing the resources. We hope that the pledges is going to be translated into the actual resources in the fund and agreeing on the methodology for the countries to access it. I didn't want to take much of your time, but I wanted just to express the importance of this fund and how we can work together to make it operational. I thank you very much for your kind attention and wish you fruitful deliberation. Thank you so much.